Hello and welcome to Canguro English. This is the IELTS Academic Exam Writing Masterclass. Today you are going to learn the techniques to take your writing from a 4 to an 8. Let's begin. Okay, so the first thing we have to do before we write anything, okay, when we read the question is planning, okay? Planning is the most important thing. We don't just sit down and start writing from the first word until the end. No, we have to plan our text. So we're going to start doing that by doing a brainstorm. A brainstorm is where you write down all of the different ideas that you have. So the saying is, to have a good idea, you need to have lots of ideas. And this is very true. So what you can do is you can write down all of the different vocabulary or ideas that come to your mind. So if I ask you a question about work, if you think people are happy at work, then we just write a big list of ideas, okay, about anything that we can think of relating to this topic that we can then use to plan our text. And also, the planning includes managing your time, okay? You don't want to spend 15 minutes brainstorming your ideas. 2 or 3 minutes, think of your ideas, and then we need to start. So the next thing is paragraphs. Now, paragraphs, like all parts of writing format, we are trying to help the person who is reading, okay? We want to make their life easy. We want to make our text easy to read and clear. So we need to use paragraphs. They're very important, okay? So paragraphs usually contain one idea, okay? One thing you want to talk about. And this is normally the format. So they begin with a link, okay? But this is optional, because it depends if you had a link in the previous paragraph or not. So it can contain a link. Then we have the introduction sentence or the topic sentence, okay? So this is one sentence telling the reader what are we talking about in this paragraph. Then we have the body, okay? And this is usually between 3 and 5 sentences that actually explain our idea or our argument. And then finally, we have the conclusion. So the conclusion summarizes the body of the paragraph. And it can also create a link to the next paragraph if we don't have a link at the beginning of the next paragraph. Okay? So this is how we make a paragraph. We don't want to have one page without a break. We want to separate our ideas. Okay? So you take your ideas from your brainstorm and you put them into paragraphs. If you look at this text here, you can see that this is 150 words, okay? So this is half an A4 typed, okay? This is the minimum amount of text you can write for task 1. And here, we have some bigger paragraphs, longer paragraphs. These are 250 words, okay? This is what you have to write for task 2, the minimum amount. So I think personally 2 or 3 paragraphs for task 1 is sufficient, okay? And maybe between 3 and 5 paragraphs for task 2 is also sufficient if you follow this structure. Next thing, complex versus simple sentences. Complex sentences put you in a higher band in the IELTS exam. So what is the difference between a simple sentence and a complex sentence? Well, the difference is a complex sentence contains a clause. So what is a clause? A clause means that we are adding extra information to the sentence without starting a new sentence. So for example, you could say, I like pizza. Okay, good. This is a simple sentence. Then maybe we continue. I don't like mushroom pizza. Okay, so we have another simple sentence. And then the third simple sentence is my favorite is ham and cheese. Okay, so here we have 3 simple sentences. Now this is like a level 4, okay, type writing where we have very simple sentences spread out. You know, a native speaker would never talk like this, okay, a level 9 or a level 8. So what you need to do is practice your complex sentences. We can put this into one sentence using our joining words, which you must practice, like however, whereby, where, which, that, because, as, whereas, etc. Okay? So let's transform this sentence now. So I like pizza. Good. This is the main topic of the sentence. I like pizza. Now, instead of repeating the subject, okay, we're going to link this mushroom pizza into here. So we can use except. I like mushroom pizza. Except, oops, sorry. I like pizza except mushroom pizza. Okay, so now we're not repeating the subject, we're using our except. And then also, my favorite is ham and cheese, so let's use another linking word to put this in. We're going to use the linking word as. As and because are very similar. So, as my favorite. And we don't need to repeat pizza, because we have pizza here. My favorite is ham and cheese. Okay? So this sentence here would be classed as a complex sentence. We have 2 clauses as part of this main thing. So this level 4, this level 8, practice your complex sentences. Next thing, punctuation. Now, the best way to describe punctuation is that punctuation is the traffic lights of the English language. It tells us when to stop, when to slow down, and when to go. And it's very important because, as with paragraphs, we want to help the reader. We want to make the reader their life as easy as possible. So we use punctuation to help them, to tell them, okay, slow down for this bit, or extra emphasis on this bit. Okay? So the first most important thing, of course, is our full stop. Or period if you're American, okay? The full stop is a complete stop. It says, this is the end of this sentence. It's the end of the idea that I want to put in this sentence. The next punctuation mark, the apostrophe. So it's very important in the exam that you use the apostrophe correctly. Don't confuse the possessive apostrophe with the contraction apostrophe, okay? Like, for example, I like its house, okay? No, there should be no apostrophe here, okay? This is possessive. Now, in general, in academic writing, we don't use contractions. So, no, okay? In academic writing, we tend to use more verbose forms, okay? I am. So try to avoid the contractions in the academic exam, okay? Okay, the next mark, the semicolon. We want to use the semicolon when 2 ideas are very closely linked and we don't want to start a new sentence. And it means that the 2 things on each side of the semicolon are very dependent on each other. They rely on each other, okay? But it's a little bit stronger than a comma. For example, you could use it like this. I like pizza. It's I like pizza, semicolon. It's an amazing food. So here we avoid repeating the subject, okay? And we can see the two ideas rely on each other, but it gives you a little bit more space in your mind, okay, mentally when you're reading. A little bit more space than a comma, more of a pause. Okay, the next mark is the colon. Okay, 2 dots, okay. So what's the difference between the semicolon and the colon? Well, the semicolon gives us a bit more of a pause than a comma, a bit more of a pause. But the colon actually gives us that sense of moving forward, like we should jump to the next idea. But again, we use it so that we don't have to repeat the subject. So, for example, I like pizza. Amazing. Okay, so we can use this we can use the word amazing without repeating the subject. But we just have that sense that they're very strongly linked when we're reading the text in our mind. Okay. Also, we use this in front of quotations. Like, for example, he said, hello. Okay, so we use it here. And we also use it for lists. Like, for example, my list. And then I put my colon, and then here I have my list of things. Okay? So this is the colon. Okay, the next thing is parenthesis or brackets. Okay, brackets. We use brackets when we want to either give our opinion or add some extra information to a sentence. That's not essential to the sentence. Like, for example, you could say, I have a dog, which is black, called, I don't know, called E. Okay, so I have a dog, which is black, called E. So this part here in the brackets, the which is black, is not essential to understand the sentence. I could say, I have a dog called E. So this information is a courtesy to the reader, because remember, we want to help the reader to understand, okay, to pause when necessary, to understand exactly what we want to say. Now, instead of brackets, okay, you can use dashes. So for example, here, I could put a dash like this, okay? But these are considered more informal than brackets, and because this is the academic exam, if you're going to insert some extra information, okay, use brackets instead. Okay, the next mark is the hyphen. Now, the hyphen, we use this when we want to join words together, like compound nouns or compound adjectives. Now, this is very important, okay, and the biggest problem comes with compound adjectives. So you really need to be careful when you use more than one adjective, okay? Let's have a look at an example. I am a 10-year-old boy. So here you can see in this sentence we have 3 adjectives, which are here. 10-year-old. Now, at the moment, without the hyphen, we consider these to be 3 separate adjectives. But really, they are describing one idea. So why is it important to put the hyphen? Because I could think, I am a 10-year-old boy. So a boy who is old. No. Or a boy who has 10 years. It doesn't make sense. So we use the compounds, okay, to say this is one adjective. Okay? Very important. Or for example, he is a Spanish speaking man. Okay? So again in this situation, we have 2 adjectives, Spanish speaking. So is this one idea or 2? Do we want to say he is a man who speaks, who is Spanish, but maybe he speaks English or French or German? No, we want to say he speaks Spanish. So we join the 2 ideas together, okay, with our hyphen. So Don't forget about the hyphen in the academic writing. Okay, now 2 types of punctuation that you should really avoid, okay, in the exam, which are the ellipses, which is the ... And also you should avoid using too many exclamation marks. Exclamation mark, okay? So the ellipses, you know, we use them to, to say, there's more coming at the end, like a dramatic pause. Okay, but this is very informal. Don't use this in the exam. And also, too many exclamation marks, okay? It's very informal. A lot of exclamation marks, it sounds like you're a very excited teenager. Oh my God! Okay, it's not good. It's not academic to be like this, okay? So avoid these in the exam. Now, we're talking specifically about the academic version of the exam, not the general. So let's have a look at some style differences between general and academic writing. So avoid the use of okay. Most academic papers, in fact most novels, most books, don't contain a single use of okay. So avoid okay. Also, as I said before, avoid contractions. Okay? Use I am or they are instead of there and I'm. Okay? It sounds more formal. The next thing is avoid phrasal verbs. So you may or may not know that English is a combination of lots of different language roots. Germanic, Anglo-Saxon, French, or all Latin, all mixed together. Okay? So traditionally in English, Latin was the language of science, of academia. And the Anglo-Saxon language was, the language of the people, the farmers. And so from Latin, we have the longer single word verbs. And from Anglo-Saxon, we have our phrasal verbs. So when we write in a formal way, we tend to use the shorter, less complicated, one-word Latin-based verbs. So for example, instead of saying, I got to the airport, okay, so get to being the phrasal verb, use arrive. I arrived at the airport. Okay, little changes like this, avoiding your phrasal verbs, makes you sound more formal. The next thing is our synonyms. We know in the exam they're looking at your lexical ability, how much vocabulary you have. Okay? So how can you learn more synonyms? Well, I suggest that you get a good thesaurus. Okay? This is basically a dictionary of synonyms. So when you're next practicing your writing or reading at home, get your thesaurus and look through and learn some new words that mean a similar thing. Finally, use the passive. If you read a newspaper or if you listen to the news, the passive is used a lot, okay? Because it helps us to avoid repeating the subject a lot. Normally when we write the passive, we don't include the subject. The construction is not too difficult either, okay? And it makes you sound a lot more formal. So if you combine these 5 things together, this will help your writing to sound more academic. So let's imagine that you have just finished writing task 1 and task 2. Your 60 minutes is nearly up. You must have time to check your work at the end. It's very important. Leave yourself enough time to read all of your text and to correct the simple mistakes. Nobody, native speakers, university professors, English teachers, okay, when they write, they make mistakes. It's natural, it's normal. Your brain and your hands are not connected sometimes, okay? So please leave time to check your writing at the end. Okay, so that is the IELTS Academic Exam Writing Masterclass. If you would like to see any more videos about exam preparations, or if you would like to study your grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, then don't forget to subscribe to Canguro English. See you in class.